Last couple of days, pretty busy with news and conversation. Of course, we had the gubernatorial debate last night, the final one between incumbent Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker and Republican candidate Darren Bailey. But also you have, over the weekend, the governor extending consecutive COVID-19 disaster proclamations and reissuing a whole host of different COVID-19 executive orders. And one particular downstate state representative, he's been pretty vocal about all of these things and more, so I figured we'd bring him on to talk about it. So we'll get to the COVID-19 orders first up, but State Representative Adam Niemerg joining us here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop. Representative, thanks for taking time with us, and let's get your thoughts on last night's final debate between Pritzker and Bailey. Good morning.
Good morning, Greg. Thanks for having me on this morning. And last night's debate, wow, did it really set some expectations going into the November 8th election, which is just shortly, just a couple weeks down the road. I felt that Senator Bailey did an excellent job laying out to the people of the state of Illinois what he plans to do. And there's a starch difference between the governor and the senator when it comes to their not only how they would handle the COVID-19 pandemic and the mitigation standards, but also other issues such as the reinstatement of parental notification and sex ed in our schools. So I think the senator did an outstanding job.
Did he do enough, though, to explain, especially in Chicago, to a Chicago audience, what needs to be done with crime? That seems to be one of the big takeaways that Pritzker had after the debate. He says Bailey didn't offer up any specifics. What needs to happen there?
Well, on the crime issue,
Again, MacArthur and South Grand. Just want to update people. Caller calling in saying that there are those problems there at MacArthur and South Grand with some traffic light issues. So you might want to treat that as a four-way stop if you don't see those traffic lights working. All right, Representative Adam Niemerg, of course, something else you've been pretty vocal about is the COVID-19 executive orders that have now been going on for more than 31 months, 2 years, 7 months. What is that, like 900 some odd days? What's going on there? And the most recent executive orders issued, there's still vaccine mandates in place. Is it equitable?
Absolutely not. And it's at the very bare minimum, it's discriminatory in the workplace. We're looking at a executive order that's been in place for 2 years and 7 months. We have lived under an Orwellian-type government with Governor Pritzker at the head of it, using his propaganda arms with his bureaucratic leaders throughout the state of Illinois. Recently, I see CMS denied a religious exemption form, and the religious exemption form is very well put together for this particular individual. This individual and I have had many conversations about what they submitted, how they submitted it, and I've opened a dialogue with CMS on hopefully a re-examination of this individual, because what they have done is they have denied this religious exemption form, and when I have asked for what reasons, they have stated that it wasn't a religious objection form, that it was a legal objection. However, I have the information here. I have the religious exemption form. This particular individual went to their church. The documentation is thorough on the religious exemption form of this. And when I asked what metrics are being used, why are you denying religious exemption forms? Why are you picking winners and losers on this particular issue? I have it in writing. There are no metrics for acceptance or denials of religious exemption request. Instead, each request was reviewed individually to determine whether or not that request outweighed the state's significant interest. So, folks, we're looking at a state significant interest, no longer the people's significant interest. And furthermore, I ask, what statutes? Where are you drawing this interpretation? And these policies are not based on statute. They're based on experience, based on the state's policies for granting or denying other religious accommodations. Folks, it's in writing here that there is no metric, there is no set standards for denial or acceptance of these religious exemption forms, and this is just flat out discriminatory. And then furthermore, you see the governor's executive order when it comes to folks in the healthcare industry, where they removed weekly testing and they removed the mask mandate even for unvaccinated workers. So we're in this for 2 years and 7 months. Everybody's getting back to normal. You see folks out there saying the pandemic's over. JCAR had a meeting yesterday, and the headline I read was, "The pandemic's over. JCAR objects to IDPH emergency rulemaking power." So, folks, we're still living in these vaccine mandates when everybody's getting back to normal. And I'm going to call on CMS to re-review their policies. I'm going to call on the governor to stop issuing these executive orders and let people get back to their normal life.
Again, we're talking with State Representative Adam Niemerg with some of his concerns about the continuation of COVID-19 disaster proclamations and the executive orders that have carried on with that. The most recent string of orders lasts through the November election and will expire November 12th if the governor doesn't re-up them again. You're saying ultimately that the changes in the health sector when it comes to no longer having testing requirements, that's not something that's being afforded to the constituents you have that work for places like the Department of Corrections.
That is absolutely correct, Greg. It is it's an arbitrary rulemaking ability set forth by a governor who is interpreting the science as he wants to interpret it. And when you sit there and you see that a vaccine mandate is in place for a Department of Corrections employee and a religious exemption form is denied based on who knows what, because they don't know what they're looking at. And then you see healthcare professionals, which I agree, healthcare professionals there shouldn't be a vaccine mandate. They shouldn't be required to wear a mask. But you see that mandate is lifted, yet this one is still in place. What exactly is going on? What is happening here? And then we see continued science, as you want to call it, from the left coming out and saying that this is the most effective way to keep people safe. Well, there's other data, there's other science out there as well, that the CDC came out this summer and said the efficacy rate of the vaccine is 0 to 20% after 6 months. So if a vaccine that satisfies a mandate for the Department of Correction or CMS is no longer viable, then why do we have a mandate in place? Again, anybody that wants to get the vaccine, please feel free to do so. We are not here to say that you should not get the vaccine, but what we are here to say is these rules that were set in place, the 2.5 years of rulemaking ability that's been set into place by emergency order first, excludes the legislative branch, which is a co-equal branch of government, but also is not based in reality or fact when it comes to picking winners and losers. So yes, it is a situation where the governor needs to stop with these executive orders, needs to bring in the legislature. We've been saying this for far too long. But I think as of January 1st, we're going to have a new governor, and we will no longer have these issues.
State Representative Adam Niemerg, appreciate your time. We'll definitely be talking again soon, all right? Be safe out there.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me on.
It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News.